just been speaking to a friend, and he was telling me the recent killing of someone who's getting in the way of this person's power and authority, that man being Putin. He had this person killed simply because he was getting in the way. Now, this is happening all the time. There are atrocities around the world, even in our own towns. There are things happening that are causing so much suffering and unhappiness for people. Something radical has to be done. And this is my message. Each individual must become discontent, not with life in general, not with the world as it is, but in one's own life. Each individual must see that their whole life is centered around themselves and not around the divine. Each individual must come to this revelation, this understanding that their whole life is centered around selfishness. Even doing things for others comes from the place of selfishness. Every individual is expecting to be made happy by others and things of the world, happy by one's own family. Every individual is expecting, they expect a right to live as they are now. It's not good. The way we live is not good because we are doing an act of separation likened to the clenched fist from the divine. However, very few people understand what the divine is. The divine is not a belief. A divine is not a particular phrase, statement, dogma. The divine, represented by the open hand, is already happiness. The divine is already love bliss. The divine is a spiritual energy, a life force. It is the divine that is growing us all. What makes your hair? What grows your nails? What changes your skin every so often? The divine. It's up to every individual to become discontent, disillusioned with their own lives and their activity, their what we call the mummery of life, their tendencies and patternings. We've got to see that we're living like a clenched fist, and we're living like that, instead of like an open hand, where we're allowing our true state of already happiness to take over the body-mind. There are two dispositions to live from, and the majority of the people on earth today and previous lifetimes have been living like a clenched fist. It's a disposition of me against you. We don't have to be a Putin to enact selfishness. People don't like hearing this. They want to hear, oh, I will accept you as you are. God will console you. God will protect you. God will give you comfort. That may be true, but that's not transforming you. It's quite simple. Everybody is what's known as missing the mark. We are separating ourselves from the divine. This person takes pleasure in reading about this, that, and the other, about how important it is for people to take on a divine spiritual practice. A spiritual practice that does transform. And the only spiritual practice I know that truly transforms is a transcendental practice. So we transcend our nonsense and we stop enacting our nonsense, part of which is expecting others to make us happy. We are not being individually responsible for our lives. Every individual, like it or not, is at war with one another. Because everybody wants to be made happy by another person or object. You have to find out that you are already happy. And why we don't feel already happy is due to this activity of what I call the self-contraction. And the only way out of doing that activity is devotion. Devotion to the divine. Devotion to already happiness. It's a radical movement. It's a radical change of destiny. A destiny of no longer self-fulfillment, but a destiny of being a servant, serving one another, serving the world. The microcosm, the individual environment, the individual circumstance must be taken care of and being responsible for before the greater macrocosm of existence. We've got to start learning to stand alone with a relationship to God. Not God our Father, who's looking after us. We need a kick up the backside. The majority of adults are so immature, so emotionally immature. We are all dramatizing an emotional concern, problem. It's so important that more and more and more people become enlightened, become awake from the dreams that we live. We all live in cuckoo land. Very few adults are truly living, embracing all of life. The body-mind must be allowed to be lived by the divine without this contraction. We are not living intimately. We live as if I am separate, or we are separate from one another. We're not separate. There is no separation. That's an illusion. We delude ourselves. There is only oneness. But because we do this activity, which is sin, the activity, not the result, but the activity prior to the result, prior to unhappiness, prior to suffering, prior to seeking, prior to wanting me fulfilled, prior is this disposition of the self-contraction. Stop doing that and you'll find you are already happy. We need re-educating, and this person is the one to do it. Adidar Sambhaj. He's written hundreds of essays and he's given hundreds of talks. This is a lovely book called Compulsory Dancing. In it, he talks about we must surrender to and into the divine. The divine is not elsewhere in relation to us now. The divine is always present, alive as all beings, manifest as a total world. Our obligation is not to invert and go elsewhere trying to find the divine, nor to extrovert and exploit ourselves in the self-possessed, anti-ecstatic existence. We are truly already happy, truly ecstatic. If you would only allow the divine to live you. Our obligation is to awaken beyond ourselves, beyond the phenomena of body and mind, into that in which the body and mind inhere. We exist in this reality with a capital R. We've got our own little individual realities with a small r. We are so self-possessed by it. It's our scaffolding. It holds us up. It protects us, etc. But truly, our true nature is to be vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable, so we do the contraction. We want scaffolding to hold us up. Our belief systems, our dogmas, our cultures, our organizations. We want to belong to others. No one belongs to anyone. We exist in the divine reality. And we are part of the divine reality. When we are thus awakened, our lives become the incarnation of the divine, whereby only the divine is evident and only the divine is the process of the present and the future. So there we become trusting. Then we have faith that our lives are being lived by the divine. We're surrendering our lives to the divine. We continue to function, but we function from this happy, ecstatic disposition. That way of life is not bound to this world or any other world, nor to any form of attention in body or mind. Rather, the way of life is ecstatic, divine made, free, radiant, and always already happy. And when you're already happy, there is no need for others to make you happy. Everyone is emotionally blackmailing everyone else to make them happy. There's the saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And it's true. We're so familiar with our circumstances, our present environment, that we take it for granted. There's no love there. There's no true love there. When we're living as the divine, allowing the divine to live us, every day is fresh. Every day is intimacy with our surroundings. We live as love. We live as joy. Our hands become a servant of joy, of joyous action. We speak about God, about the divine. Turn to the enlightened masters. Truly turn and do as they ask. I've been a devotee of Adidar Samraj for 35 years. And I am so very happy for no apparent reason. You see, society says you cannot be happy. You're not allowed to be unreasonably happy unless you've been given a tick, unless we say you're a good person, unless you're doing all the right things. Another quote, you must choose the divine. That is the principle. You must enter into absorbed communion and happiness in the divine, the living reality. If you will do that, then you will quite naturally bring order to your inclinations, because you already feel good. So you're not doing anything to make you feel good, you see. You already feel good. You're happy to share. You're happy to serve. You're happy to give. You know, in reality, you don't own anyone or anything. And the happier you become, the less you are involved in trying to make yourself feel good. The divine, God, becomes sufficient. It is only when the divine, God, becomes sufficient and absolutely real, and your absorption becomes perfect and ecstatic, that you are lifted out of this absurd and insane situation in which we live. Everyone must ultimately take up the truly religious or ecstatic way of life. There truly is no alternative. The way of surrender to the divine reality is inevitable if you understand and are discontent with your situation. You must live by surrender to the point of ecstatic inherence in the mystery that is living and being you. You see, the divine, represented by the open hand, is blissful ignorance. Everyone goes around knowing, I know best, I know best, I know best. I am right and you are wrong. No, I'm right and you're wrong. No, listen to me. Oh, no. It's a mystery. Live in that mystery of life, in that divine ignorance of not knowing anything. I speak here without thinking. There's no thought in my head. I'm looking for a quote. Allow life to be God's business. One who is a lover of God, of the divine, sees only the divine life expressed in and as the one he or she loves. When life is recognized to be the truth of the loved one, then life becomes the loved one. Thus, it is just such recognition of life in the form of one's lover and the process of sexual relationship that makes true love possible and relieves the relationship of morbid self-possession, jealousy, binding attachment, and romantic illusions. Those who embrace the divine in psychophysical ecstasy of all kinds transcend self and other and are always already free in God. There's a quote about allowing one's life to be God's business. Now, where is it? Happiness, true happiness is a stillness. True happiness is peace, because there's no more seeking for happiness. The tension, the stress involved in wanting to be made happy is no longer. You see, people don't realize that you're actually doing that tension. You're doing the stress. You're actually doing unhappiness. You're doing the seeking for happiness. You don't need to do it. Or maybe it's, I know. It's not a quotation. It's an actual essay. Look at Adidar when he was younger. Full of happiness. Do you really think life shouldn't be happy? Everyone is wanting to be happy. But instead of just being happy, we're seeking for happiness. And it's that seeking that's preventing us from being already happy. Allow your life to be God's business. That's it. You are disturbed. You are uptight. You are not surrendered bodily. And you are working on internal programs. You're always in your head, thinking. The truth is that you are simply afraid and not surrendered. Everyone is living in fear of one another. You've got to see that this is true, what I'm saying. Don't be deluded by what you think. You think you might be a good person. So what? It's just a thought. It's imaginary. Everyone is living a virtual reality in their heads. The truth is that you are simply afraid, not surrendered. Those programs are what you do when you do not surrender emotionally, when you cannot see that you are simply contracting and cannot release the contraction and allow whatever is happening to happen. You must trust the process of your own life. Whatever is going to be, will be. Be free of fear. Surrender to the person of God, the actual living God, which is the divine, the spiritual presence. Trust the divine altogether. Give yourself up emotionally to God. Do it to the point that the physically based fear of death vanishes on the basis of trust alone. Practice complete devotion. You see, by practicing devotion, you're countering, you're doing something against the grain, as it were. Devotion takes you away from this nonsense to this. You've got to find whatever it is you are attracted to in order to pull yourself out of yourself. The divine happiness that Adidar is and taught and continues to teach and continues to transmit is what I'm attracted to. It doesn't have to be in the form of Adidar Samraj. It can be in another form. But truly find whatever it is, your agent, your bridge to God, and fall in love. That's my message. Fall in love. Become a lover on this earth. No one's going to give you permission. No one's going to say that's what you should do. You've got to give yourself that permission, because you are disillusioned with your life and everyone else's life. Get. More. Grab. So that stillness, that peace, means that you can be a lover full time, under all circumstances. That's what I prayed for when I was very young. I said to Jesus, I don't want to be a follower. I want to be more like you. And I said to God in my 20s, I don't want any scaffolding holding me up. That was quite a prayer. I've always had this leaning towards the truth of existence. If you think that it's acceptable to be at loggerheads with one another, if you think it's acceptable to be annoyed, to be cross, to be impatient, to be frustrated, to be anxious, to be fearful, to be concerned, to be in your head all the time, if you think that is acceptable and that's how we should live, then continue. But when you activate intelligence, true intelligence, from an intuition, from this intuitive, from the heart, when you start activating your heart, you take on this radical practice of countering this, devotion away from this, to that you love. And due to Adidar, I am such a person. I live from the heart. I serve my fellow man. And I share a way out of this nonsense, this insane madness of living, as if we are all individuals. We all know we're going to die, so you choose what you want to do between now and your death. As Alidar says, we should all become like the converted Scrooge. Scrooge lived like this. We all saw him, and suddenly there was a metamorphic change. And if you like, he blossomed. And there's some good films out there that depict that transformation. Only the divine transforms. It truly is. This can't transform itself. That's all about get. It's nothing to do with the heart. The way I teach is a heart matter of love, of sacrifice, of surrender. I'm not perfect. I'm not 24/7 like an open hand. I still do the contraction, but I am aware of this contraction. I am aware of this separation. I am aware of this dissociation. I am aware of doing that within. It's got to be like this, open, out. And not expect it to happen on your deathbed while you are alive or supposedly alive. Who cares about what you believe in? Who cares about your religion? There are hundreds of religions. They all say they're right. But a religion is just for consolation. Religion is just so that you feel you belong to a group of people. Religion is a social requirement in some respects. You're required to have a kind of religion, whether you see yourself as religious. But to be truly religious, you've got to stop missing the mark. It's now, in this moment, nothing whatsoever to do with rituals and what it says in the books. It's an actual practice of devotion, away from this to this. Take a flower. Devotion. Take the flower. Look at it with love and joy. Feel intimate with the flower. There's an intimacy when you're at one. People don't like the word intimacy. They think it's sexual. Intimacy with everything you hold. Allow your hands to be loving hands, etc. Now I'm going to continue with this message for the rest of my life, because I hate being like this. I am very blessed and graced to be able to talk like this. Why should we fear one another? Be intimate with all of your day-to-day activities. So yes, allow your life to be God's business. Whatever arises, high or low, such a life will simply be surrendering to the point of happiness, giving up to God completely. If you will do what I urge you to do, then this instruction is sufficient. You don't need to know the technicalities. You don't need to know anything. You need not become convinced of anything except that you are suffering a contracted state of existence. You're not living fully blossomed. You've got to flower. Feel the force of that contraction. It's emotional force. It's physical force. Feel the quality of contraction and realize that it is your own action. See? It's like pinching yourself. I'm not going to pinch myself all day long. It hurts. Ow! So I go to the doctor. Doctor, I'm in pain. He said, well, stop pinching yourself. It changes the state of the being, you see. The contraction changes. There's a tightness there, and that's what we're doing. We're creating this tightness within ourselves, and then we want to explode. We want something to external to relieve us. You see. We're always looking for something to relieve us. Realize that you can exist in a totally different condition merely by recognizing your own separative activity and transcending it in each moment. Just surrender emotionally and completely. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to talk with me, if you'd like to Zoom, let's have some meetings together. I've been a practitioner of already happiness, no matter what's arising right now, for many years now. I do forget that it's practice. This has to become an instrument of God. It's God's vehicle. If you want to continue living in your selfish ways, fine. If you want to continue with your religions, fine. If you want to continue with your beliefs, fine. But see how detrimental it is to everybody in the world. Well, there's my phone. Maybe I should go and answer it. Thank you for listening.